Welcome to Combat Sports Talk, a podcast dedicated to UFC, Bellator discussion, the MMA community, and combat sports in general. I'm your host, Ryan Smith, and joining me this week is the one and only John Keys.
Woo! Hey, everybody, how's it going? Goodness, had a great weekend. Heck, we saw violence on a level we were not expecting at all.
I mean, violence was on 11. It was unbelievable. You know, I remember Ariel Helwani saying that he doesn't like to celebrate the violence of the sport. It's all about the other things that make the sport, worth watching. But this is one of those times where if you like the brutality, if you watch NASCAR for the car wrecks, this is the card you wanted to watch. UFC 231 coming from Scotiabank Arena in Toronto, Canada. That's the card you wanted to watch. If you watch gymnasts in the hopes that they fall, ice skating in the hopes that they fall, NASCAR in hopes that they crash, this was the card you wanted to watch.
It did not get much finer than this card right here. I mean, I watched from early prelims to the championship fight, and I would have to say it was a beating from the start. I mean, the first punch thrown, dude did a leaping punch into the guy. I was like, okay, we got ourselves a card tonight. So let's just get into it, man. Let's not even beat around the bush on this one.
All right, well, let's get into it with the official decision. The official decision. This is the official decision. This is where we look at the fights on the main card that made a difference at UFC 231, Holloway versus Ortega in the Scotiabank Arena, Toronto, Ontario, Canada, December 8th, 2018. First fight of the night was Hakeem Dawodu versus defeated Kyle Bochniak via split decision. You know what? This guy, Hakeem, mean Hakeem Dawodu, that guy, I mean, he is a talented kickboxer. I went with Kyle Bochniak on that fight, and I thought the wrestler turned striker was going to do something, but it didn't work out well for him.
Mean was not the word. I mean, this dude had crazy eye all the way through. Even at the weigh-ins, nobody flinched. First of all, let me put that out there. Usually I can tell who's going to lose by who flinches first. Nobody flinched at the weigh-ins, okay? So I knew then this was going to be a crazy fight. Hakeem Dawodu, I mean, he came in like he had just cracked some bones, somebody's back just before he came into the weigh-in, or beat somebody up for their money, and then came into the weigh-in and was looking crazy at Kyle Bochniak. And he had the same look when he came to the ring. It was scary. Okay, I think he slept with his eyes open. I think that happened.
Well, I don't know, but one of the interesting things about Hakeem Dawodu is the fact that he was one of those classic kids where he turned to martial arts to keep himself out of trouble, and he has now turned it into a successful professional mixed martial arts career. In the next fight of the night, Gunnar Nelson defeated Alex Oliveira via submission in round 2. What's funny is that the fight ended in a submission, but that wasn't the damage that he delivered to Oliveira. There was an elbow that he gave Oliveira right before he went in for the rear naked choke submission, and it cut him open, and Oliveira open so wide that he needed 29 stitches in order to close it.
I swear, when he put the choke on him, it was like blood started spewing out. And I was just like, is the choke actually increasing the blood flow here? I mean, if you want, I mean, it was. Oh, and I tell you, all the blood that you saw on the mat that night came from that fight right there.
Yep.
Okay. It was bad. And I was like, whoa, Gunny.
Yeah, it was. If you want to get an effect, let me explain to you how the blood pouring out of Oliveira's head looked. Go to your kitchen, turn on the faucet, but only turn it on about halfway. The amount of water that's coming out of your tap at that point, that's how much blood that was coming out of Alex Oliveira's face. It was crazy.
Yeah, and I think Alex Oliveira, he got freaked out by as much blood as because as soon as he barely sinked in the choke, he was like, "I'm tapping, I'm good,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
done," you know.
yeah.
So,
It,
hey,
but that's one thing that we should talk about, though, is that
hmm
UFC gets such a bad. I mean, mixed martial arts in general, but UFC gets such a bad rap for this type of thing. Like when I talk to people about watching the UFC and how I'm a big mixed martial arts fan, it's the blood, it's the violence that people can't deal with. And this is one of those cases that I'm telling you, if you got a queasy stomach, it may be hard to watch. But there's something that you have to understand, and I learned this actually watching professional wrestling. The
hmm
human face has a ton of blood in it.
hmm
There's just a lot
yes,
of blood there. And so when you get a cut that's pretty deep, it's going to bleed much more profusely than you would if you cut your finger or something somewhere else. And so it looks bad because it's the face, and just what's going on in the ring at the time. It looks really really bad, but outside of the need for stitches, I don't think that Oliveira was like incapacitated. He gave up the
no,
choke
no,
pretty
no,
quick,
absolutely not.
but he wasn't
Yeah,
injured. He was hurt, but he wasn't injured. And that's the thing
yeah,
that I want to let people know. If you're a casual fan and you see something like this happen, if it's a cut to the face, it's going to bleed a lot. If there's scar tissue there, it's going to bleed a lot. But that doesn't mean that the fighter is incapacitated. It doesn't mean that he is on the verge of dying due to loss of blood.
hmm yeah, because the Diaz brothers, especially Nate Diaz, is really bad for that. Like you slap him hard enough in the face, he'll start bleeding. Okay, I mean he's got really bad scar tissue around the face. So they always look like they've been in a war from hell. But this is just like one round of regular fighting for them.
Yeah.
Okay, they bleed all the time.
Let's go to the next fight. Thiago Santos, Mahera, defeated Jimmy
Mm,
Manuwa via knockout in round two. So
man, that
this was a
I,
rock'em sock'em fight. It was actually the first fight of the night. We've got the order a little bit mixed up. But Thiago Santos came out and
man,
dropped Jimmy Manuwa early in the first round. Manuwa got back
yeah,
up, fought back. A couple of times he rocked Thiago Santos during the grappling release. He caught him with an elbow a couple of times, but it ended with a brutal uppercut.
oh
And
yeah,
Manuel fell to his knees and was just praying for it to stop. Not because he wanted
yeah.
to, it was just because his legs had given out.
Yeah, because I mean, his body automatically went to prayer for him,
Yep.
and it was just like, wow. And the bad thing is, you did not know who was going to win this match.
No, you
I mean,
didn't.
you could literally, yeah. I mean, it was just boom, 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 boom. I mean, they were just loading up and dropping bombs. Then they stopped for a few moments, like, okay, let's take our breath here. Let's get our breath. And then they go back to just beating each other again. It was a great fight. I mean, rock'em sock'em robots. That's what they were until somebody's head popped off.
Yeah, and that
And
head that popped off was Jimmy Manuel. I just want to say that I am impressed with his form. When he got knocked out, he went instantly into child's pose. It wasn't it wasn't the fetal position. It was literally the yoga position known as child's pose. If you can look it up if you're not familiar with that one. But that's how he ended his night um, in the child's
it was
pose.
better than a diving dog. Okay,
Yeah.
that's all I gotta say.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
In the co-main event of the evening, Valentina Shevchenko, the
Hmm.
Bullet, defeated Joanna Jędrzejczyk, the Queen, via unanimous decision. This, I don't know if there is if something more more definite than a unanimous decision. Like there needs to be something beyond unanimous decision to really describe by how much Valentina Shevchenko beat Joanna Jędrzejczyk. And it's hard for me to say because, I am not shy about saying that Joanna Jędrzejczyk is one of my favorite female fighters, and I'm ride or die
Hmm.
for her whenever she fights. Valentina Shevchenko just looked like, they say a man among boys. She looked like a woman among girls.
Yes. There was, hey, for those who don't know, Valentina and Joanna have a Muay Thai history. Okay, they used to fight Muay Thai against each other. They used to compete against each other, and in the three encounters that they had back then, Valentina dominated her then. So when I realized that, I was like, yeah, this is just gonna be much worse, and it was, unfortunately. I mean, I admired JJ's confidence. I admire her belief in herself, and I'm like, that's great. But when you go against somebody that is 3-0 against you, you're already in an uphill battle, and that uphill, unfortunately, was like Mount St. Everest. Okay,
Mount
and
St.
it was
Everest.
Mount St. Everest. Mount St. Helens?
Yeah,
Is it an active
Mount St.
volcano?
Everest and Mount Everest. Yeah,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
Mount
yeah.
St.
You know,
Helens
it's
like in Alaska, and
I
Mount Everest
combine,
is
yeah.
in the Himalayas. So
I combine them because it was just as bad. All right, put those two together, and it was just that bad, people. Okay, it was just it just wasn't going to happen that night.
yeah, I mean
And
it's true.
I feel bad for JJ, but maybe she needs to go. But now that we know where Valentina is going to be, JJ just doesn't need to be there.
Well, it's
Okay.
you know what it is, and this is what I was talking to George
Mm.
about at the fight night on Saturday night. Is when you look at Valentina Shevchenko, she fought at 135 pounds. So
Mhm.
she was actually fighting down to 125, but she's capable of fighting at 135. And she went toe to toe with the likes of Amanda Nunes, who is, I want to say, the most dominant 135-pound women's champion that the UFC has ever seen. And I know that that's
Mhm.
controversial because Ronda Rousey has a bunch of title defenses, but it's only a matter of time before Amanda Nunes gets that many title defenses and surpasses that of Ronda Rousey. Um,
Right.
Valentina Shevchenko lost by decision to Amanda Nunes. Valentina Shevchenko defeated Holly Holm.
Mhm.
I mean, these are big, strong women. And so when you
Yes.
look at Joanna Jędrzejczyk, who made her living at 115 pounds and she's fighting up, there is a there is a strength and just body frame difference between Joanna Jędrzejczyk, who is very, very thin and petite, and Valentina Shevchenko, who may be called the bullet, but she's more of a 50 cal.
Yeah. Good one. I like
And
it.
I don't. I
Good
mean, and I'm not saying that
one.
she's like overweight or anything like that. I'm
No,
just
no, no.
saying,
She looked really good,
oh
and
yeah,
that her form was fine. If anything, both of them looked a little bit on the thicker side, but because we used to seeing JJ being so thin, and maybe that's what she needs to go back to being, is back to the 115,
well,
125,
Dana White
and be
absolutely
there.
thinks so. He's like, listen,
Yeah.
I saw it. I saw the way you were ragdoll. I saw the way you were when Shevchenko kicked Joanna Jacek, the spinning back kick. I mean, Jacek went across the ring. I mean, it was like, wow,
Yeah.
like the power and
Yeah.
the strength that Shevchenko showed is just like, wow. So
Right.
hats off to my girl. But you got to go back to
Not her day.
115 where it's safe.
Yeah.
There's killers
Yeah. Not her
at
day.
125.
Yeah.
In the main event of the evening, Max Holloway defeated Brian Ortega via technical knockout in round 4 due
Man.
to doctor's stoppage. This fight probably should have been ended in round 3. Yves Yavine
Mm,
was the ref, and I kind of think that Brian must have offended him at some point because Yves should have stopped this
man.
way earlier. I'm glad they stopped it at the end of round 4.
Okay, first of all right. Well, hats off to Kenny Florian because he called it exactly like that. He called a technical knockout in round 4. Okay, only thing he didn't call was exactly the circumstance. Okay. Second, Eve Levine. I've always had beef with Eve Levine. He has always been a bad caller. He's been a bad rep. So for this to happen, whatever. Should have
Uh,
been stopped in round 3.
I feel like it should have been
No.
stopped in round 3. What
It,
was Brian Ortega still fighting back? Yes. Was he falling down? No. But was it intelligent
it,
defense? Barely.
yeah,
Like I
barely,
just
but technically.
yeah. I'm just watching how Brian Ortega, who's taken so much damage, he's throwing these punches and there's no power behind it. He's really just putting his hand out there. By the time he gets into the 4th round, he's basically I don't want to say dead man walking. He's a zombie out there. I mean, it's only a matter of time, and he's just taking damages. The stats here are unbelievable. In the fight,
Yes.
Brian Ortega took 307 significant strikes. He set a UFC record for the number of knuckle sandwiches. Like, this is like, when you go on 4th of July and you go down to the hot dog eating contest. Like, freaking
Uh-huh.
Brian Ortega is now the knuckle sandwich eating champion of the UFC.
That just shows you what Max Holloway was doing. He was headhunting.
He
Okay,
took
he was seriously headhunting.
He took 134 strikes in the fourth round alone. That is almost half the strikes that he took in the fight. He took them in the fourth round. And so this is why
Well,
I'm saying it's like,
mhm.
was this too much? Because I'm watching him getting punched around. He's bouncing like a freaking pinball, in a pinball machine. And Yves Levine is like, watching this fight. I mean, I know it was
That,
entertaining as a fan, but a ref's supposed to protect the fighter.
exactly. Eve Levine has a history of not being that good at doing that. Now, as far as the 134 in the fourth round, if you go back, and I implore anybody to go back, at the end of the third round, you see Max looking at his son. Okay, and they pan, I'm not a big fan of cameras showing the children or the family of a fighter especially during the fights. But that they panned a picture of his son was looking like he was about ready to cry, and that's when he looked over at Rogan and he started pointing at the ground like, "Be ready, it's happening in this round." And he came out there ready to end this because I truly believe because I thought for a second that your son is going to distract you from that. No, it motivated him to end this fight. Okay, and he came out there with a feverish tear into Brian Ortega. Hats off for Brian Ortega. Dana White was right. He is too tough for his own good. Brian Ortega has heart, man, and I mean that's why last week I didn't want to call it because you have two warriors in this division. Okay, and it's number one, and Max Holloway and Brian Ortega, and they were two warriors. Neither one would have went down. Okay, it was going to end by a stoppage at some point, a stoppage, a submission, or a KO. Okay, because it was neither one was going to stop. If the doctor hadn't came in there and saw what he saw and immediately called it off, they were going to a round 5. And I'm glad that the doctor took one look and was like, "I'm good."
Well, this is the
Okay.
thing, though, is that if it would have gone to a round 5, then I would have had serious concerns about the corner that Brian Ortega had. You don't let a fighter that's barely able to stand up go into a round 5. That they should have really thrown in the towel ahead of that. Like, they should have stopped this fight. Live to fight
Gracie's don't
another
stop.
day.
Gracie's don't stop, dude. I'm telling you right now.
Okay,
Out of all my,
last time I checked, Brian's last name was Ortega.
but he's a Gracie fighter, and Gracie's don't stop.
Then
Okay, for those who don't know, all right, the Gracie fighters, and I've really got to do a whole piece on this on later at some point. That the legacy of the Gracie fighters, they have this warrior mentality that they don't stop. You have to stop them. B.J. Penn, Matt Serra, which in turn brings down that whole tree of Sarah Longo fighters. Those are all Gracie fighters. You go to Nate and Nick Diaz. Both of those guys are Gracie fighters.
yeah, I get
They
it.
have
I
they
get
have
it
this
that
warrior mentality.
but
You
it's
know.
at the end of the day. At the end of the day, you don't let a fighter take brain damage
I agree.
because of this. I mean, this is still a sport. If you're fighting for your life, yeah, you don't stop. If you're fighting to
Yes.
save your children or something like that, you don't stop.
Hmm.
This is a sport.
I
This is
agree. I
this
agree
is
with you. But
this fourth round was as one-sided as a fight can get. This is probably,
yes,
I don't know if they scored this fight, but it was a 10-7 round. It was that
mm,
one-sided. And
I
if you're
wouldn't
going to
give it.
send the guy back out there for 5 more minutes of that beating, then you do not love that guy. That is not your brother. And I listen. I understand the mentality. I understand the ethos of what they try to do, but you do not care about the health of the person if you're willing to send them out for a fifth round after the beating he took in the fourth. I
See,
I dare anybody to tell me that there is a reason you do that other than it ain't me in the ring, so I can do it. Because there's no
I gotta
love there.
disagree with you. There was love there, but there's also, like I said, I put it up to the warrior mentality of the Gracies. I do not agree with it wholeheartedly. Okay, because when you put your ideology over your own health, you will die. Okay, that's just the bare bones of it. There's never been a case where somebody put their ideology over their own health and lived. Okay, and that's what these fighters, the greatest fighters, do. They believe in that warrior mentality that they will rather be put in the dirt than walk away from than to submit like that.
Yeah, I don't. I listen. Then
That's why BJ Penn is still around.
no, but
Okay,
I mean, listen, I don't understand it. I'm not a fighter. I did not train under the Gracies. I don't know. I'm only commenting on this as a person who loves this sport. I'm only
mm-hmm.
commenting on the person who follows the sport as a legitimate fan, and I
Right.
just cannot see how anyone can see what happened in the third round, see what happened in the fourth round, and say, yep, I'm willing to submit you to this for 5 more minutes. It's
Have you
just,
ever?
it's
It's
that
insane.
level of brutality. You just don't do that as a corner. You just don't do that.
Okay, so with that said, and I'm pretty sure you probably watch it on YouTube now because it's such an old documentary. Have you ever seen the documentary called Choke?
No.
You should watch that. Okay, it's the story of how the rules that we have now evolved from that. It's the story of the first basically the pre-Pride fights before Pride. Okay, and it follows Hickson Gracie, who is the alpha dog of the Gracies. If y'all have a few minutes in your life, look him up and just look up his name. It's spelled like Rickson, but it's actually Hickson Gracie. He out of all the Gracie fighters that came around, they all feared him. Okay, because of what he did. He went allegedly 700 and
Okay.
0
Okay.
in his fighting career.
All right.
Okay, but that look up Choke, the documentary
What's
Choke.
the point,
Came out in
though?
like 19. The point being is that it delves a lot more into the Gracie mentality. Okay, it tells about the Gracie mentality. The fact that how they live their life.
Got it.
Okay, and it's,
Okay.
like I said, it's very interesting, and it kind of sheds a light on what happened, on why they were fighting like they were, why Brian Ortega was willing to go out there that fifth round.
All right,
Okay.
all right, I got you. I'm super passionate. You can ask
Oh, I
KC.
agree.
I'm all about protect the fighter, and there's two people who have the responsibility of protecting a fighter in a
Mm-hmm.
fight. It's the referee during the action, and it's the corner during the fight.
Right.
When from round one to the end of the fight, the corner is responsible for protecting that fighter, and if it wasn't for the doctor who went into the ring, because we saw Eve Levine wasn't going to stop that fight, and we saw that the corner wasn't going to stop the fight. If it wasn't for that doctor who went in there and said, I am going to stop this fight, Brian Ortega may have sustained damage that's unrecoverable. And I don't know how you just throw someone's career like that. They're 14-0. They'll probably be back for a rematch at some point in the future. If Max Holloway moves up to 155, Brian Ortega probably becomes the featherweight champion of the world. And you
Yes.
throw all of that away because of some never say die attitude. I don't know. I just
It's not built for everybody, man. I'll just
yeah,
say
no,
it's
no. I'm
never.
just
It's not
saying
built for everybody.
it's
Yeah.
not built for me. But I can say that I would never say die when it's life and death. And last time I checked, getting a paycheck for fighting isn't life and death. Let's go on to the hype train. All right, this is the hype train. This is where we look at the card and the successful fighters from that card and decide whether or not we're going to join the hype train, what we call the hype train, the bandwagon for these fighters. Because we saw some outstanding performances on Saturday night, and I've got 5 fighters that we need to evaluate whether or not we're hopping on that hype train. First one is Mean Hakeem Dawodu. You on this man's hype train?
I got to see where it's going first. I got to see one more stop. Okay, he's promising. He's got the attitude. He's got the ferocity, and he's got the skill. I mean, I need to see one more fight of him fighting somebody that is at his skill level or a little bit higher, and then we'll see where he's at.
Yeah, I'm not on it. I'm standing way back off the platform. He's a talented
Oh,
fighter. I just don't like his attitude. I don't like the
ah,
way he was mean mugging the camera after the fight. I don't like the stuff that he was saying.
but
Like, dude,
he's
you
mean.
no, I'm just saying. Yeah,
He's
it's a
mean,
nickname,
Hakeem.
but
You know.
but listen, you got a long way to go at 145 before you're acting the way you're acting. You know,
So you're saying that that it was equivalent to the 30% Cameron Usman. Is
no,
that what you're
no,
saying?
okay, no, because what Cameron Usman was saying was that he was injured and he came and he went in there and still fought his competitor, even though he was only 30%. Like
Hmm.
what the reason why I got on and this is recorded, so I don't have to go too far into this, but the reason why I got on Cameron Usman for saying the percent thing was not because of what he said in the ring. I was very clear about what he meant by what he said. It was after, and you can't find it. They deleted the video, but I saw the video backstage. Megan O'Leary interviewed Cameron Usman, and she asked him about the fight, and he reiterated. She asked him about the 30% comment, and he reiterated it, explained it, and then he said, "You know, I did this at 30%. Imagine me at 85%." And that was where I lost it because I was like, "Dude, why are we imagining you at still 15% of your capacity? Like, it should be if you see me at 30%, then you should imagine me at 100%. That's what you should say. And it just bothered me so much that Cameron Usman was like, you should have seen me at 85%. You can't see that. You can't find that video anymore. It has gone to the winds. Like, I don't know how we might even begin to be able to find that video, but it's
Hey,
there. I
so
saw it.
hold on. I'm sorry. How Megan is Meghan or is it Megan?
I don't know.
Olivi.
It's one or the other.
All
Megan,
right.
I guess. Megan
Yeah,
O'Leary.
give me. Yeah, how you spell her last name? Because I'm going to spell
Olivi, I think.
Livi. Okay, give me. All right, let us continue because I'm going to find it. Find it.
Let's see here.
Uh,
Yeah, and it's Megan. Megan O'Leary. It's like Olivia without the A. Anyway,
okay. Yes.
so
Anyway.
Hakeem Dawodu, great fighter, very talented. I was very impressed by what he did with Bochniak. I don't like the attitude. I don't like. It seems fake to me. Like it's not good for me. Gunnar Nelson, he's a fan favorite. Like I know that
Oh yeah.
the hype train. You know, you might have to wait until another comes around because there's no room on this hype train. But you're gonna
Oh
get
yeah.
on. You're gonna
Everybody
try to
loves
elbow your
Gunny.
way in.
I'll hang off the caboose. I mean, it's Gunny, dude. He is a very popular fighter, and you know what? He's been consistent, so I'm willing to give him a chance.
I
You
tell
know.
you, I was impressed by his grappling. I thought that Alex Oliveira was going to give him a run for his money, but no, it was it was when Nelson was decided it was time to take the fight down to the ground. He took it to the ground. I'm impressed. I'm hopping on the hype train. Maheta Thiago Santos.
Man, what is not to like about power fighters, man? Okay, you gotta love them. Okay, love them or hate them, you still gotta love them because they are so exciting, and it's when you get two super power fighters in there, and they just go at it. It's just so unpredictable. It's what the fans really love. Okay, they just love to see two good, solid, Brahma bulls go in there and lock horns. I'm on that hype train just for the simple fact that he does not slack. Okay, until after the first round, and they're, out of breath and they're dying of exhaustion because, they threw everything in the first round. But beyond that, I'm there. Okay, I am there. Maybe it's a short ride. Maybe that's what it is.
No,
It's like a one-stop train.
I'm gonna say it like this. This is one where he got beat so badly by David Branch. First round, 2 minutes 30 seconds, knockout via punches, that it just bothered me. That I looked past
Mm-hmm.
his next fight, which was Kevin Holland, which was a late fight replacement. Kevin Holland was coming out of the Dana White Tuesday Contender Series. I
Mm-hmm.
did not see the fact that that Thiago Santos dispatched Eric ya boy Anders. I know we covered it,
Mm.
but when I'm looking at it, how many fights he's won. I mean, he is 7-1 in his last 8 fights. Um,
Yeah.
and this is going back to 2016. Like, this guy is active. He has 5 fights this year, which is Cowboy Cerrone level. I am definitely on the hype train. I should have picked him in this fight over Jimmy Manuwa, but I gave him. I gave Manuwa the benefit of the doubt. So I'm on the Thiago Santos hype train. Let's go with Valentina Shevchenko. This seems like it should be an easy one.
Yeah, I think we are on it. I think we're still on it.
We may have already
Honestly.
been on it, but I wanted to go now that she's a 125-pound champion. We should
Yeah.
we should
We
definitely
should definitely honor it. Yeah, let's
hype
make it
train
official.
certify the Shevchenko. Um,
Yes.
Max Holloway. I'm not asking if we're on the hype train. Dude is bona fide, certified, everything you need. I want to ask: is he the goat? Is he the greatest ever at 145? Is that the hype train you're going to get on?
Yes. And I'll tell you why. Because if you really go back and look at everybody he's fought, he's cleared out the division. I don't think there's maybe one or two people left, but he's essentially cleared out that division. Okay, he doesn't have to be there anymore.
Well, there's one guy that he hasn't fought. I don't know if that guy is ready for him yet, but Zabit Magomedsharipov definitely looking for a title shot.
Oh, that's right. He did call him out. He did call him out. I think did he call him out today?
Oh, I don't
I
know,
think
but
he did. Yes,
Zabit
but
Zabit wants a piece.
hey, and we can. I know that Holloway is always game. Okay, that's the one thing that makes him so good is that he is always game for the fight. Maybe that's his contribution to the sport that he's bringing back that hard mentality of look, I'll fight anybody anywhere. Between Holloway and Habib, they have that mentality of send me location. Maybe that's the new mentality that every fighter needs to have. Send me location, and I'll show
Yeah.
up.
You know what? I'm gonna say no. I still think Jose Aldo
Ooh,
still holds the goat status. Um,
yeah. I
Jose
don't know,
Aldo
man.
was a champion, defended his title a whole lot of times. Jose Aldo was one of the most feared fighters for a very, very long time.
Yes,
I think
but he
Max
beat
Holloway
Jose
is a,
Aldo twice, though.
but yes, but I mean, Jose Aldo got beat twice in 2017 by Max Holloway. But when you look at Jose Aldo's career, um,
Hmm.
dude became champion in 2009 at WEC, became UFC champion in 2011. 6 years
Right.
later, 6 years later was when he got beat by Max Holloway. So
Okay, so where was Holloway 6 years ago? I think he wasn't even. I think he was still training
yeah,
to come. I think he
no,
didn't come
no,
into
no.
like.
6 years ago, um, oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, it was 6 years. It was okay. 6 years. It was 2017. So in
Yeah.
2011 is whenever Aldo became champion. Um, Holloway was still fighting in Hawaii.
Yeah.
He didn't get into the
So
UFC until 2012.
right.
And
So he was on his path to get to him. And let's put it out there. I think Dana really gave him the long road because it was like you could see that he was beating people and beating them soundly, except for that one person that shall not be named. Um,
who, Connor?
Proper, yeah. He and that, yeah, yeah. Anyway, so let's with that said, had he been put on the fast track, he probably would have beat Jose back then too.
I don't
I
think so. I don't think
or
so.
maybe or maybe it's the fact that he was put on the long track that made him that much better.
I think that's true, and I think that over time, if Holloway stays at 145, he will eclipse Jose Aldo. But he is not the greatest of all time at 145 because he just hasn't been champion long enough. He became champion in he won the interim title December 10th, 2016.
Mm-hmm.
And then he's unified the championship when Jose Aldo came back in June 3rd, 2017. Oh, no, actually, not when
Mm-hmm.
Jose Aldo came back. They fought to unify it because Conor got stripped. And then,
Right.
so June 3rd, 2017, he's had two title defenses since then. Jose Aldo in a rematch, and then Brian Ortega on Saturday night. He hasn't been there long enough to be the greatest of all time. He himself says that Jose Aldo is still the man, and I agree with him.
Yeah.
You got to
Well,
do more than just be dominant to be the greatest of all time. Let's go on. I mean, let's close the book on this one. Let's put it on the shelf and go into our next segment. That is finding the angles. Finding the angles. This is Finding the Angles. This is where we look at the headlines and the topics that people are talking about in the wake of the events on Saturday night. But before we get that, I want to go back to Mayweather versus Nasukawa. We were talking about this last week. They
mm,
finally came out with the rules. Want to go over the rules, and then I wanted to spend a little bit of time talking about the trash talk that's coming out of my man, Tenshin Nasukawa. So here are the rules: three-minute rounds. Boxing rules only, so that means no kicking, no elbows, no knees, and no takedowns for a guy who does elbows, knees, kicks, and takedowns.
and take those down.
They're using
Yeah.
8-ounce risen gloves. They're fighting at 147 pounds. That favors Floyd Mayweather because Nasukawa typically fights at 121. There will be no judges at ringside, and even though it's a full contact event, the results will not go on the fighters' records.
That's crap. Okay, without getting too technical, that is a crap rule to put a kickboxer into a boxing ring like that. You're taking away all his weapons and heavily favoring the boxer. I mean, give something to the kickboxer.
He's giving. They're
Okay,
giving
mate.
youth to the. They're giving youth to the.
Yeah.
To that guy.
I mean, I'm sorry. This is a travesty. This is a joke of a match. I mean, and
It's just
if
it's exhibition. But I'm going to tell you like this: Natsukawa was not treating it like an exhibition, which this
hmm
smacks of Rocky 3, where at the very beginning where he's fighting Hulk Hogan,
uh-huh.
and so Rocky's like, "Oh yeah,
Underwood.
yeah, this is an exhibition," and Hogan's throwing bombs. So here's this is what I love about the Japanese, a society that is built upon the just honor and respect and built upon thinking of others. That the trash talk just isn't what I would call just like severe. So this is what Nasukawa posted on his I think it was Facebook or not Facebook, Twitter or Instagram. He goes, I don't want to fight a regular fight. I just want to make sure that I ruin his first New Year's Eve experience in Tokyo. This fight won't be kept in the books, but it will be kept in everybody's memory. I will fight
Ooh.
representing Japan. Everybody, please root for me. I love that. Everybody, please root for me. That's so awesome. You're a nice
Yeah,
guy.
I'm gonna beat the crap out of this guy. I'm gonna ruin his day. and I'm taking his money. But hey, everybody, please root for me. Thank you.
Uh,
Goodness.
all right. So
On
as
the
we get
on the
closer to that fight, we'll go ahead and we'll make our pick on that fight. This is also the same card as the Bellator Ryzen crossover fight, which I do not think that it's for the belt. I know that we reported last week that it's for the belt. It's not for the belt. Oh, by the way, I do have to
mhm.
say, for those of you who may be from the great nation of New Zealand, who have a rugby team who is the most dominant and well respected rugby team in the world. Last week,
Mhm.
I called them the Australian All Blacks, and I apologize. Please do not come looking for me. Like, the outrage was insane. I am sorry. I didn't mean it. I know who the All Blacks are. I know they're from New Zealand. Forgive me.
$5 for each person that shows up on Ryan's lawn and does a haka dance and videotapes it.
You got to find me first. Actually, that's not a challenge. I know you guys can dox me. Do not dox me. Please.
Come for them. Come for them, internet.
No, no. Hey, do not do that, please. All right. Hey, let's go on to this next one. Dana White to move on without Tyron Woodley. So Tyron Woodley and Dana
Man.
White have had a contentious relationship. Woodley says that he's got a broken hand or it's somehow otherwise injured, and he needs a few days to get it cleared with the doctor. Dana White is desperately trying to book UFC 233, which is the first ESPN, or no, it's not the first ESPN fight, but it's the first pay-per-view in the new year. And
Hmm.
so he's eyeing possibly doing another interim championship, which could be the Covington Usman fight.
Okay. Not to spend too much time on this. You know, you would think that Woodley's other name is Tito Ortiz at this point. Dana is showing no love. The guy just got through fighting 3 months ago. Okay, he hasn't called out the other champions. Rose is still on the mend. He hasn't. He's not trying to strip her. You know, Paige Van Zandt, she's on the mend, even though she's not a champion, but he's not pushing her to get back in the ring. Okay, why is he coming after Woodley? Okay, and on top of that, he wants. I think personally, he does not want Woodley to be a champion. He's willing to put anybody. When Usman did his damage, okay, he was like, "Ooh, Usman versus Woodley would be a great fight." He was trying to push that narrative, and it's just like, dude, come on, really? Do you just go out and say it? You hate Woodley, all right? Dana White hates Woodley. He wants him away from the belt so he can put somebody that he likes in there.
There's no love lost for sure. George spent a lot of time, and so I'll take this time to plug our live event episode, UFC 231 live event with George G Money Stallworth. We spent a lot of time. I think we talked about Tyron Woodley and Dana White the entire night because it's just one of those things that's bizarre because Tyron Woodley seems to be at the center of the crosshairs for Dana White, and
Mm.
they just don't get along. And I think you're right. Tito Ortiz is probably the best analogy to that relationship. Tito Ortiz is, way back in the early days of the UFC, was had an antagonistic relationship with Dana White, such that they almost had a official sanctioned fight between the two to get the animosity out.
Hmm.
Usman says he wants Covington. He'll take that fight, even if it's for an interim title, while Woodley gets better. But I don't know, man. I don't know. Now that I know that Woodley is actually injured, I feel like he should be given the time that he needs. It's just that, um, yeah, I don't know. I don't know
Well,
what to say. I don't know why Dana White's hating on Woodley.
and shame on Dana White for sitting there talking about that he didn't need a thumb to fight, to throw a punch. You're right. You don't need a thumb to throw a punch, but you do need that thumb to grapple. Okay, you do
Yeah.
need that thumb to pass guards. Okay, so shame on Dana White for going there. Okay, and really shame on Dana White for not treating his champions, even though you guys don't like each other. Give him time to heal, and then put him to work.
Yep.
Okay, that's just a respectable thing to do. That's just a professional thing to do. Okay.
Let's go on to that other card that I was talking about. This is the first fight of the year on ESPN. Greg
Hmm.
Hardy, the former Dallas Cowboy turned mixed martial artist, has been added to the Brooklyn card. This is causing some controversy because Greg Hardy, although the charges were later dropped, he was accused of having abused his girlfriend or wife. There was a domestic case that was brought against him.
Hmm.
It eventually overshadowed his NFL career, and he's been kind of living under the shadow of that. But he's fighting on the same card as Rachel Ostovich, who we reported is fighting Paige Van Zandt after coming off a brutal attack from her husband on November 18th. And so people are saying that this is bad form. People are saying that this should not be the case. They shouldn't put I don't know if you can call him an exonerated because I don't think he it wasn't tried. Um,
Right.
Accused wife beater on the same card as a woman who was abused by her husband. What are your thoughts on that?
How does It's like this? Okay. First of all, was he convicted? Okay, because accusation, accusation is one thing. I mean, we try to call ourselves. We are trying to tell people, yes, you are innocent until proven guilty. But in the court of opinion, you are guilty until proven innocent. Unfortunately, all right. I don't remember him being convicted,
No,
but
the
the
charges
most
were dropped.
important, yeah. So there you go. And the most important part is while the whole internet and the world is falling in on Greg Hardy because or Dana White or the UFC in general for putting Greg Hardy on the same card as Rachel, how does Rachel feel about this?
Well, Dana White said he
That's the
spoke
most
to her.
important.
Dana White said he spoke to her.
Yeah.
He said he called her and he talked to her. He said that she said that his story was not my story. Everybody's story is different. I believe in second chances. Ultimately, Dana White said she was cool with it. So if she's cool with it, I mean,
That, that's it.
that's it. I don't know how everybody gets. I think it's easy to fight someone else's battle,
Yeah.
so you can get outraged for somebody else. You can definitely abuse someone else and
Hmm.
accuse someone else. We just got into this society now where we we want to take every opportunity to tear someone down. I'm not going to say I don't know what the truth is with the Greg Hardy situation, but I know the
Right.
truth of him trying to move past it is that he's trying to do this sport and he's trying to have a new career because whatever accusations about his domestic abuse overshadowed his career and eventually he was cut from the NFL.
Right.
So a person trying to move past it, trying to get a second chance and start a new career, um, you know, I'm willing to see this through. If he goes back and something is proven, then fine. But until then, I'm willing to give him a chance. And if Rachel Ostovich is okay with it, then why are we even making a deal? We're watching mixed martial arts,
Exactly. And that's the biggest point. If she's good with it, why aren't we good with it?
right?
If she says she is okay with it, why is it that people are not okay with it? If she's like, look, that's his life. That was his story. This is my story. He hasn't done anything to me. We are good. And that should be the period.
Period. Let's go on to this
Period.
last story real quick. Wanted to send off our deepest gratitude to HBO Boxing, who signed off this weekend after 45 years of service and commentary to the sport of boxing. They covered 1,111 fights over 45 years. Jim Lampley, who was
Wow.
the main commentator for HBO Boxing, had a very emotional sign off. If you haven't gone and seen it, just go and do it. The names of people who fought under the HBO Boxing banner is a list of who's who, Hall of Famers, greatest champions. It's amazing.
Just about everybody.
Just about
Just about
everybody.
everybody that's the who just about everybody who's worth it, has done it. And hats off for HBO. I mean, it's sad to see an end of an era like that, but as as with all good things, there must come an end.
Yeah,
So,
and part of it is the fact that, technology has changed. The way we consume our media has changed. That you're not going
mhm.
to watch sports necessarily on a cable subscriber. You're going to watch it on the web. What One FC has done an amazing job of making their sport of their fights available on mobile devices and on the web, or pay per view. And the fact is that now that everybody's going to their own custom pay per view, like DAZN and those types of things, uh, it's just not something that we do anymore. That we need. We don't need to have um, a pay per view like we have in the past. The UFC is only doing it because they're paying them 70% of the deal. Of the money
Yeah,
collected for the pay per view, the UFC is getting 70%. Otherwise, the UFC would just go on with Fight Pass and ESPN.
and be done with it.
They've got the technology now. It's so cheap. Anyone
Hmm.
can set up a server that has a shopping cart to buy and uses restrictive type of authentication to keep people from cheating. I mean, people are going to cheat because technology is,
It's
moves faster
not
than security.
100%. Yeah.
But you don't need these cable companies anymore being the gatekeepers for pay per view. Anybody can run pay per view. Just ask YouTube.
Yeah.
Logan
Oh
Paul and
man.
that ridiculous fight and the 35 million they
Oh,
made. Ridiculous.
ridiculous,
All right, let's
man. Oh
close
my
this show
God.
out with the fight card. This is the fight card. This is where we look at the fights that are coming up this weekend. We got two cards. On Friday night, we've got Bellator Hawaii Primus versus Chandler 2 at the Neil S. Blaisdell Center in Honolulu, Hawaii, Friday, December 14th. We've got 5 fights on the card. You and I were going to pick the co-main and the main, all right?
All
Um,
right, fair enough.
Alejandra Lara versus Juliana Velasquez. We've got Derek Campos versus Sam Cecilia. Sam Cecilia is a former UFC fighter. AJ McKee versus Daniel Crawford. I believe that this is Crawford's Bellator debut. He's currently in at a new Sabot picture. Frank Mir, former UFC champion, facing off against Javi Ayala, coming off a loss to Czech Congo, which at this point I question Javi Ayala's skill. And then finally, at the main event of the evening, Brett Primus, who's the champion, is fighting Michael Chandler, who was a former champion for Bellator. So let's go flash fight picks for Frank Mir and Javi Ayala. Who you got?
I mean, you can question Javi's fight skills, but I guarantee he'll probably beat Frank Mir. So I'm going Javi Ayala all the way.
All right, I'm going to pick Frank Mir just because if you lose to Czech Congo, you are dead to me. Sorry, Pat Barry.
Yeah, I was
And
going to say HD, man, HD.
Brent Primus versus Michael Chandler. Who you got?
I'm going to safe bet. I'm take it to the champ.
I'm just going with Chandler, dude. I've been watching those training videos on Instagram and stuff. That dude is freaking legit. I think Chandler gets that championship. I'm super excited about that. Let's move on to UFC on Fox 31, December 15th, 2018, coming from the Wisconsin Entertainment and Sports Center in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. There are 4 fights on the card. This is going to be on Fox. Like, this is one of the. I like the Fox night cards because then I can actually watch it. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and so, because I don't have cable. Jim Miller
Nah.
versus Charles Oliveira opens up the night. You got Rob Font versus Sergio Pettis. The Pettis brothers, Sergio and Anthony Pettis, are from Milwaukee. They're hometown heroes. Edson Barbosa returns versus Dan Hooker. And you got for the main event of the evening, Kevin, the Motown Phenom Lee versus Al Iaquinta. So, let's pick the co-main and the main. Edson Barbosa versus Dan Hooker. That is a good matchup.
That's gonna be a crazy fight right there, but I'm gonna give it to Barboza. Okay, I'm gonna give it to him.
Mm-mm.
I think this is gonna be his night that night.
9. I'm going with Dan Hooker.
All right,
Yeah,
all
I
right.
mean Dan Hooker. He's the guy that trains with Israel Adesanya. That guy. I think it's Dan the
You know,
Hangman Hooker. Yeah,
Hey,
this
hold on.
is.
Wait a minute. Wait, just because you train with him don't mean you are him.
Oh,
Look at
yeah.
Artem Lobov. Okay, let's just
Watch.
say it like that. Okay, I'm just
Oh,
saying. Look at
well.
Artem Lobov.
Okay, okay. But hey,
Uh,
but Dan Hooker wins this fight. Kevin Lee versus Al Iaquinta. Al Iaquinta has a win over Kevin Lee. You think he's going to get it done
hmm
again?
I don't know. This is gonna be an anger beating on somebody's part because they got a little hate on going on here. So it's gonna be an anger beating this weekend.
Who are you picking?
And I think I'm gonna go. I want to say Lee. I want to say Lee might actually pull it off this time. He looks like
Lee
he's
is a changed
motivated.
fighter. Lee is a
Yes, he
changed
is.
fighter. You know, it's one of those things where when you look at someone like Max Holloway got beat early. Dustin Poirier on Max Holloway's debut did a mounted armbar, which is like a crazy. I feel like that's kind of embarrassing on your very first fight out. That was Max Holloway's first UFC fight. Got submitted via a mounted armbar. He is now
Yeah.
the champion and one of the most dominant champions that UFC has seen. You
hmm
grow, you learn. Kevin Lee has
Oh,
grown and he has learned. I think he dispatches Al Iaquinta. I think that there is going to be blood on the canvas that night.
oh
Kevin Lee gets
yeah.
his hand raised.
Oh yeah.
All right. Follow us on social media. On Twitter, I'm at CST Ryan.
And I'm at Keys to Victory, and that's Keys with an ES.
Yeah, you can find us on the SoundCloud, iTunes, Facebook, Instagram. You can find us on Spotify. We just got an account on
Yeah.
Anchor, like a ship's anchor,
Yes,
Anchor.fm.
Anchor. Yes.
Yeah, you can find us also on the
Maybe they
website.
need a service like that.
Yeah,
Goodness. Oh yeah.
www.combatsportstalk.com. I'm at Combat Sports Talk on Instagram, and you are?
I'm at Keys to Victory once again.
All right. We've got merchandise. Go to our website, click the merchandise link, and it'll take you straight to Amazon where our store is. You can get yourself a Combat Sports Talk logo tee. And we've added a new section on the website for live events. After I finish publishing this one, I will also be publishing the live event that George and I recorded. It's always great to listen to him talk because that dude knows his stuff. One more thing before we go, and it's
Mm-hmm.
this. It is rare. It is a rare occasion, Mr. John Keys, that I make
Mm-hmm.
5 picks and I get them all wrong. And I think that the eating the crow sound is not sufficient. So I went online and I got something else to I don't say celebrate, but to mark the offer, the 0 picks I got right. I'm giving us the sad trombone.
Oh.
That's what you get for going over. So there you have it. I
The
officially
humility here.
am
I
a
mean,
loser.
yeah, and I mean, you went all the way this weekend. I mean, Eagles took it to. I mean, Eagles took a loss too. So you were complete in your, as Darth Vader would say, your failure is complete.
Yeah.
There you go.
You know what?
There it is.
There it is. I'm going to replace the sad trombone sound with the Darth Vader, your failure is complete. When you score a 0 for 0, when you go over, you get the Darth Vader, your failure is complete. Thank you very much, sir. Let's
Yeah.
go ahead and get out of here. Our theme music is composed by Scott McCurry at scottdeancountry.com. Casey Onyebuchi produced our lead-ins. I want to thank you for joining us for another edition of Combat Sports Talk. For John Keys, I'm Ryan Smith, reminding you to keep your hands up, your chin tucked, and throw bombs.